More Misty Gordon. Chapter 9 is called The Very Long Distance Phone Call. Breakfast as usual. Mr. Gordon was scanning the obituaries in the Saturday newspaper. "So did anybody bite the dust?" James asked his father. "James," Mrs. Gordon fussed, shaking her head. "Mind your manners. Don't say bite the dust." "Okay then," said James, rolling his eyes. "Did anybody interesting buy the farm?" "No," said Mr. Gordon. "Nobody interesting bit the dust, bought the farm, or kicked the bucket." That's too bad," said James, smearing jelly on his toast. "Ah, listen to this," said Mr. Gordon, tapping the paper. "Evidently, the Ashcrum Museum is restoring the legendary Ashcrum bell. Mr. Lane, the director of the museum, says here that the museum is lowering the bell today in order to repair it. The bell will be up and ringing in a couple of weeks." "Well, I've got some way cooler news, much cooler than that ugly old bell," said James. "Dr. Fig told me that the Ashcrum Lighthouse is going to be finished ahead of schedule. It's going to be amazing, man." "That's something," chirped Mrs. Gordon. Then she looked at Misty and tilted her head. "You look different, dear," she said. "Did you do something to your hair?" "I got new glasses," said Misty. "New glasses?" sputtered Mr. Gordon, dropping his fork. "Don't worry, Dad," said Misty. "Mrs. Sweethouse gave me a babysitter bonus, and it was enough money for glasses." "Phew," said Mr. Gordon, relieved. "I didn't mean to get stirred up. It's just that, well, business has been slow lately." "I'm sure business will pick up," Mrs. Gordon said. "Yeah," added James. "Before you know it, somebody will take a dirt nap." "That's the spirit," Mr. Gordon chuckled, patting James on the head. There was a knock at the door. Eager to leave the kitchen table, Misty yelled, "I got it!" "Hello, Miss Yamamoto," said the voice. "Your father is expecting you." "Nope, I skipped a page. Sorry." It was Yoshi at the door. "Am I interrupting anything?" she asked. "No, not at all," said Misty. "Just the basic crazy morning stuff." She looked at a paper sack Yoshi was holding. "What's that?" she asked. "It's my dad's lunch," said Yoshi. "He forgot it, so I'm going to take it to him. Do you want to walk with me?" "To the asylum?" said Misty, wincing. Then she shrugged her shoulders. "Oh, why not? It couldn't be any more crazy than it is here." Misty reached for her coat. "Oh, wow," whispered Yoshi. "Look at your hand." "Shh," said Misty, grabbing her bag. "We'll talk about it outside." Then Misty called toward the kitchen. "Yoshi and I are going for a walk. Be back in a little while." As soon as the girls were on the sidewalk, Yoshi took Misty's right hand and turned it, palm up. "That is so freaky. It looks like a tattoo." Yoshi squinted at the thick black lines that had gotten even darker. "I know," said Misty. "I've tried washing it off, but nothing has worked." The girls braced against an icy wind. "It's freezing out here," said Misty, taking her gloves from her bag and slipping them on. "Yeah, come on," suggested Yoshi. "Let's start walking." Ashcrum rarely looked pleasant at that dreary time of year, and today was no exception. The cold, hard look of November, with its gray skies and frostbitten grass, had even made the Sweethouse's cheerful home seem dismal. One could imagine how completely forbidding the Monger mansion looked that morning. As they passed the mansion's iron gate, the girls stole a glance at its dark and empty front porch. "Witch Hazel must be inside today," Yoshi guessed. Another biting Atlantic gust blew against the girls, sending leaves swirling past them and high-pitched howls whistling across rooftops. Over their heads, a seagull fluttered and swooped in the wind. Misty stopped walking a moment. "Did you hear that noise?" "Which one?" asked asked Yoshi. The rustling sound, replied Misty, looking about curiously. It's probably just leaves, said Yoshi. Come on, let's keep walking. By the time they reached the asylum's gate, a light fog had arisen. Yoshi pushed a button on the gate, and the girls waited a moment before a voice came through the speaker. State your business, please. Hi, it's Yoshiko Yamamoto, Yoshi called into the speaker. I'm here to see my dad. Hello, Miss Yamamoto, said the voice. Your father is expecting you. The gate buzzed open and the girls walked through. Misty looked over the vast grounds. There were only a few people outside, mostly nurses taking coffee breaks on benches. One nurse got up and walked toward the girls. Hi, Yoshi. Are you here to see your father? She asked. Yes, said Yoshi, holding up the sack. I brought his lunch. Why don't you just leave that with me? Said the nurse a bit nervously. You see, Dr. Yamamoto is tied up at the moment and won't be able to visit with you. Why? Asked Yoshi. What is he doing? He's trying to get a grip on a new patient, whispered the nurse. She's quite a handful. Suddenly, a whistle shrieked from a cluster of trees. Everyone spun around. It's Margie Medford, gasped Misty as the crossing guard jumped out from the trees and blew again on her whistle, motioning for some nurses to walk past. Dr. Yamamoto, who was nearly 2 feet shorter than the giant Medford, was hopping up and down trying to swipe the whistle from her mouth. Evidently, the nurse explained in a confidential tone, Miss Medford has not taken that whistle out of her mouth since she saw, or rather imagined that she saw, the alleged playground beast at Ashcombe Elementary. She saw it? The girls exclaimed together. The nurse nodded. Imagined or not, the sighting sent her right over the edge. So that was the incident that happened in front of the castle involving Medford, said Yoshi. Be quiet, yelled Dr. Yamamoto, covering his ears as Medford blasted away on the whistle. At his wits' end, Dr. Yamamoto suddenly broke into Japanese, shouting, Shizukani Shiro! What did he say? Misty asked Yoshi. He said, be quiet, in Japanese, translated Yoshi. Dr. Yamamoto spotted Yoshi and waved. Medford looked. Immediately, the crossing guard stopped blowing on her whistle and squinted at the girls. Medford sees us, Misty told the nurse. What is she going to do? There's no telling, warned the nurse. Medford remained motionless, except for a twitching eye. Dr. Yamamoto slowly lowered his hands from his ears and scribbled in a notepad. I think we should be going, Yoshi, said Misty. Your dad is obviously very busy. They walked back out the gate and had just stepped onto the sidewalk when Medford charged the closed gate, blowing frantically on the whistle and pointing across the street past the girls toward a hazy grove of sycamores. Medford spit out the whistle and blurted, There it is again, the playground beast! Everyone turned to look, but saw nothing. Dr. Yamamoto and the nurses took Medford by the arms, but the crossing guard could not be calmed. Yoshiko, Misty, Dr. Yamamoto called through the fence as he and the nurses led Medford back to the facility. Another time. Yoshi waved goodbye to her dad and started down the street, but not Misty. She wanted to see if Medford was indeed imagining things. Misty looked across the street to where Medford had just been pointing. At first, Misty saw only the fog among the trees. Then, from behind a sycamore, out crept Fanny Belcher's coat. It swayed menacingly, its fur rippling in the wind. Misty swallowed, going weak in the knees as she reached into her bag and pulled out Madame Zaster's glasses. Trembling, she took off her own glasses and put on Madame Zaster's. They turned icy cold and fogged over. No way, whispered Misty. There, standing in the fur coat, was the ghost of Fanny Belcher. She was a smoky gray color, her eyes pale silver, and her mouth a dark hole. The ghost leaned forward sinisterly. "Misty Gordon," the frightful apparition called, its eyes flickering. "You listen here." But Misty didn't hang around to hear what the ghost had to say. "I can't believe it," Yoshi cried when they were back in Misty's room. "I can't believe that you didn't stay to hear what Franny Belcher's ghost had to say." "Why should I?" said Misty, peering leerily out of her bedroom window. "She was so scary looking." "Scary looking or not," said Yoshi, "she wanted to tell you something. It was probably something really important, and you ran away." Misty considered that maybe she had acted hastily in running away from the ghost. "Okay," sighed Misty. "I promise the next time that Fanny Belcher's ghost tries to say anything, I'll be brave and listen." Just then, a loud buzzing ring filled the room. The girls jumped as Fanny Belcher's phone sounded. And there was no doubt about it. The phone was definitely ringing this time. "Answer me, answer me," it seemed to clang, inching along the desktop like a terrible black bug. Bewildered, Misty reached for the phone and then paused, her hand hovering above the receiver. She closed her eyes. She couldn't bear answering it. As if the phone could sense her reluctance, its receiver shot upward, landing in the palm of Misty's hand as soundly as a hurled baseball. Her arm quivering, she brought the phone to her ear. "Hello?" she said. For a few seconds, all Misty heard on the line was static. Then came a softer noise, like the sound of the ocean when you hold a seashell to your ear. Over that ocean traveled a voice, at first far away, as if calling from a distant cliff, and then the voice drew closer and clearer until breaking through all at once. "This is the operator. There is a Fanny Belcher on the line. Would you like to accept the call?" One lesson horror movies teach is that you should never invite a ghoul into your house. No matter how much a ghoul pleads, you never let him slip one dark, skinny, hungry foot through your doorway, because you know that once you give him permission to step inside your house, you're doomed. Holding the phone in her hand, Misty couldn't help but wonder what she might be inviting into her life by accepting this call. The choice was up to her. She could either slam the phone down or she could simply say, "Yes." "Thank you," said the operator. "Hold for Fanny Belcher." It was completely creepy, waiting on the line for a ghost, and it was even creepier when the ghost finally spoke. "Hello, Misty Gordon." The voice was hollow and strange, as if it were speaking from the bottom of a well. "I'm here," answered Misty, pulling Yoshi to her side so she could listen in on the conversation. "Since you wouldn't speak to me on the street, I decided to reach you by phone," the ghost said, a cutting tone in its voice. "What do you want?" said Misty. "I want you to mind your own business," the ghost warned. "My diary and its contents are none of your affair. Be warned, do not interfere with the prophecy." "What prophecy?" asked Misty. "The prophecy found in the riddle," hissed the ghost. "Oh, I've been watching you, and I know you're trying to figure it all out." The phone line crackled, and Fanny Belcher's voice began to fade in and out. "You're just like your father," said the ghost, "sticking your nose in places it doesn't belong. Frank Gordon," she growled, speaking his name as if it were something unsavory, "with his ridiculous store. Well, that store of his never fooled me." "What are you talking about?" asked Misty. "Years ago, when your father was a boy, and eavesdropped on the seance at Madame Zaster's house, and learned that the Golden Three were somewhere in Ashcrumb, we descendants knew he wouldn't let it out of his mind, and we were right. He grew up and started his business, the dearly departed. that allowed him to go through dead people's things in hopes of uncovering clues to where the Golden Three might be. We descendants were guarded. We knew that the dearly departed was just a front. But then, Louis Yates, that mindless sop Louis Yates, started to go soft in the head. He forgot that he was a descendant, and that vulture Gordon, knowing that Yates was a link to the Golden Three, hired him to work at the store. Hazel and I knew what your father was up to. He was hoping that Yates might unthinkingly offer some clue, some key in finding the Golden Three. Misty's head began to swim. "So you listen to me, Misty Gordon," said the ghost. "You may have learned the prophecy from my diary before I got back, but that's all you're going to learn." Misty interrupted. "Why do you even care about the Golden Three? You're dead, after all." The ghost gave a low, self-satisfied laugh. "The statue of Hades can bring the dead back to life. Once the snake's spirits find the statues, they will honor their descendants by bringing us back from the dead. And when that occurs, and if you have at all interfered with the prophecy, I promise that the first thing I will do is kill and devour Misty Gordon." The ghost let out a bone-chilling laugh, and then the line went dead. And Misty, having watched plenty of horror movies, realized that she hadn't learned any lessons from them. With a simple yes, she had let something in after all. Chapter 10 is called The Hypno Clock, and we're saving that for next time.